Hi, everybody. Welcome to Valiant Effort, Episode 11. I'm Josh.
And I'm Nick. Name of this episode is Harbinger Wars.
Part 1.
Oh, there's more parts?
What? Are there?
I guess so. All right.
Hey, can I tell you about New York Comic Con?
Yes.
Yes. New York Special Edition. Karen and I went to over the last weekend now, and it was pretty awesome. Valiant had a booth there, and they were selling some trades. I bought some trades. They had a little plush doll of Faith, which I bought as well, which was really cool. I spoke to Dinesh, who's the CCO of Valiant Comics, about our podcast.
Oh.
And he asked some questions, and I specifically talked about you because he is interested in how to acquire new readers.
Oh.
And so he asked the question, how's it going? How's it going for reading in general? Because he was under the impression that you just never read Valiant Comics until I explained to him that you'd never read comics at all.
I see.
So I extend the question to you so that he can have an answer. How's it going?
Good.
Good.
What does that question mean? How does it going?
I don't know. He's curious if you're enjoying them, if you're able to follow along with the stories, and
I see. Yes, I'm able to follow along with the stories. That most of them make sense except for Shadow Man.
I think that's a common.
I think they're very intriguing. They're very interesting and keep my interest. And I think that the way that these are written cater more towards someone like me rather than the older generation of comics, such as Batman or Spider-Man back in the '60s, because that's a lot of reading, and it feels more childish to me to read those things, and
because they're in spandex and
yes,
yeah. And this is an opportunity. This is like a ground floor thing where you can start at the beginning of a new universe too. Is that what you also mean?
Yeah, that, and the art looks a lot more adult looking, and so is the action and the storyline as well. So this is a lot more adult reading rather than the perception I have of the other ones where you had the zonk. The sound effects, So these are a lot more enjoyable than those.
Well, he said he had listened to a couple of our episodes, which was really cool.
That is pretty cool.
And so that's just one more listener who's much more interested in your opinions on the books than they are on mine.
I am the hook of the show.
You're the hook.
I'm the reason why people listen.
I was talking to Karen about like what my role in the show is, and she goes, "You're just the know-it-all."
You are the know-it-all.
One more thing before we get into the books. This last weekend was free RPG Day, which is kind of like free comic book day, but not as many people know about it. So we had a very awkward moment where we went into a store that specializes in RPGs so that we could pick up our Valiant Universe RPG Quick Start rules.
What?
And I can show them to you because the RPG that is featured is Harbinger Wars.
Oh.
So you've read this book now that we're about to talk about, and we can do a game now. Because this is the story that you just read. So I think that we should arrange that in the next couple of weeks.
I think that would be very fun
to play the game. The quick start rules are very nice. It comes in a really nice cover and packaging, and it gives you a bunch of scenarios and tells you about the characters and what their levels are and stuff. So
that's really neat.
I think it'd be a lot of fun to do that.
That'd be interesting to do. Is this a different game than what we planned on with Tyler and?
No, this is the same one. I just couldn't tell you about it because we hadn't done the Harbinger Wars stuff.
Okay.
So. There's another. They have a couple of PDFs that they've released. One of them we can't do yet, but we can do the Harbinger War stuff now. So
awesome!
Yeah,
that'd be fun to do.
After Bloodshot's attack on Project Rising Spirit, two groups of Psiots head off into the Nevada desert. One group, led by Bloodshot, is confronted by Harada and his forces. The other group, led by Kronos, crashes a helicopter into the Bellagio Hotel in Las Vegas. When Bloodshot sees Harada, the Harada protocols activate. He vomits nanites on Harada. Both are severely injured in the battle. Project Rising Spirit reactivates the Hardcore to go after the Psiots in Las Vegas. Peter and the Renegades try to help against the Hardcore, but their forces are divided when they have to fend off Bloodshot and his group of Psiots. Harada eventually recovers from his wounds and convinces both groups of Psiots to join him.
I had a very tough time reading the first issue. It was to the point where I got to the end of the first book and I was so confused, and I had an unusually large amount of questions. I had to take a few days off of reading the rest of it and reread it again for a fresh perspective and a new outlook on the book.
Was one of your... So there's a lot of things that I think could be confusing about the first issue. There's a lot of characters that are introduced that were kind of like, got to learn a bunch of characters' names.
That was one of them.
That I remember when I first read that was very confusing to me. And I think I've got them all sorted out pretty well now. We also have 3 different artists on this book. Did that bother you?
I didn't really notice the art.
Because this time it was broken up into the flashbacks.
Yes. Yeah. But okay, let me rephrase. I did notice the art in some spots where I really, really liked it. But for the most part, I actually noticed it. To me, anyway, it was pretty uniform.
So the majority of the book was drawn by Clayton Henry, who did the first arc of Archer and Armstrong.
Okay.
There is one flashback scene with the younger Psiot kids. That artwork is done by Clayton Crane. And that's he does that in his computer. That's computer-generated artwork. You've seen a couple of covers of his, but this is his first time doing interiors on the book. And he'll be getting more and more duties as it goes. And then the scene with the monk, where the bleeding monk and Harada and Peter are having a conversation, that was done by Miko Suyin.
Was that was at the way end of the...
No, that was at the beginning. Those 3 pages right there.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm thinking of something else.
Okay. And then, he also did the last page as well.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
They tend to give him the duties when it comes to the bleeding monk. And also, Pere Perez his artwork is scattered in here as well. He's got a very similar style to Clayton Henry, so I can almost never tell when it's his characters versus Henry's, except the characters look a little bit more anime-like. But
I noticed that.
Yeah, so that's Pere Perez's artwork.
Okay.
Clayton Henry tends to draw people with large foreheads, and Pere Perez tends to draw people with anime eyes.
I noticed that, and it looks like actually characters from Akira to me.
The writing duties were mostly done by Joshua Dysart, who does the Harbinger book. I think he was aided in scripting by Dwayne Straczynski, who does the Bloodshot book. And this is our first crossover, which is kind of neat. It's neat to see a bunch of characters in one book. What other were there other things that confused you?
Oh, there was a lot of things.
Ask me some questions and I'll answer them, man.
Well, they were at least when I was confused the first time reading them through, and then the second time reading them through, again, as I said, with a fresher outlook, I was able to decipher what was going on, I guess, a little better. The first time reading it, the whole Chinese incident confused me. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know the dialogue between the politicians and also between the Psiots. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know where the dialogue was coming from.
So the indications, I don't know if you saw it. You said you read this book twice?
Yes. Yes.
So I don't know if you saw it, but the way that you can tell who's talking when is text boxes will have color to them.
Yeah.
So that's your clue. And I will admit that the first time I ever read this story, I had to read this particular scene more than once.
Okay,
myself.
So I'm not the only one then.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Plus, you're getting all this information on these Psiots, and one of the things that's really cool about them, it's not like the X-Men where, Cyclops has the power of laser beams out of his eyes, and Iceman can make ice. No, their powers are really in depth. And almost the
it's hard to figure out what like Hive. Okay, that doesn't tell me what his powers are.
Yeah, it's almost like a scientific answer as opposed to like...
Yeah, like Wolverine, claws
and
Spider-Man, okay, spider stuff.
So yeah, that is a confusing sequence. Plus, I think the art change is drastic, and I got to be honest. The first time I saw Clayton Crane's artwork, it wasn't my thing. I'm not really into making comics on a computer. I like to see pencils and not Photoshops. But the more and more I've seen his art, the more and more I've really liked it. He actually is doing all of the interiors for Rye, which I can't wait for you to read. So,
this art here,
Clayton Crane's art.
yes,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that art.
Yeah, it's very pretty. It is.
Well, okay. So anyway, everything seemed to blend into one timeline for me the first time reading through, which is why I
but the second time you were able to, because there's 3 different periods of time that are happening.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they keep saying 9 days before incident or 1 year later and everything. But I don't know what the 9 days before was referring to at that point either.
Sure,
just tell me. And then I was wondering, what was the rod sticking out of the bleeding monk's chest? I had not seen that before. I don't know if it was just me being unobservant on the other ones, or if this is actually something new.
Okay, so they don't actually see the bleeding monk. Like, the bleeding monk isn't there. They go in the bleeding monk's mind and have the conversation.
I see.
And that is the place that he took them to is the moment in which he received the wound that never heals. So that is a spear that is in his chest. And the date, the 1700s, that is when that happened. That's how old he is, at least. You'll see more of that later.
I wrote 1700.
Yeah, but that is the moment in which he received his wound.
Okay, so then my next theory is completely shot.
Okay. Let's hear it. Let's hear your theory. Yeah.
This is going way beyond just anything that anyone had probably ever thought of before. But that rod, this is definitely reaching far again. But could the bleeding monk, I can't believe I'm saying this, be the reincarnation, or I should say the rebirth of Jesus Christ?
Oh.
Because of the rod. It's the rod that's telling me. Or maybe he's the quote unquote real Jesus. Because I'm thinking so because he seems to be undying. He's all knowing, he's precognizant and all powerful. And also he's also a monk, which is representative of the old times, albeit not 2,000 years ago, because this was about 1700s or whatever. But the one thing that really made me think about this was the spear, like I just mentioned, because it could be a representation of the Lance of Longinus, which is the name of the lance that speared him at the end.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you that your theory is not right.
I know that now after you said that.
But there, certainly this is a religious character, certainly. So you're not off base on that regard.
So is the spear still in him in his real form? Like for today?
Well, when we've seen him in today, he doesn't have the spear in him.
Okay.
The wound just doesn't heal. It's really complicated.
Okay.
And I don't want to spoil it for you. I want when you read the issue that deals with that, I want your 100% unbiased opinion of it.
All right. So
I don't want to tell you more than what he said in the book, and what he said in the book is that was the moment in which he was injured. So I have some questions. Does the bleeding monk know the future or possible futures?
Well,
because does he see the one future, or does he have access to all the different realities? Because he referred in the first issue of Harbinger, he referred to Peter as the destroyer. Is that going to happen or not?
Well, it's weird because he told Harada, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think he said, don't do what you're going to do with Peter because it's going to end up in war, and Harada does it anyway. And then he goes on to say, oh, well, you tried to Harada.
Yeah.
Now it's my turn. And it's, it's like, did you know that was going to happen? Why didn't you tell him that was going to happen that way?
What do you? So that leads into my next question. What do you think the monk's motivations are?
I have no idea what his motivations are.
Me neither.
He is so.
He's a
poker face.
He's an enigma, certainly. And where is he? Too.
I don't.
Like,
that's a good
he
question.
Escaped. He went somewhere. Where did he go? Because I don't know.
He's a Buddhist monk, so maybe he's in the mountains somewhere, just living in isolation like a hermit.
One thing that I did like about that scene, it seems clear to me that the monk thinks of Peter as the bad guy, though, in the story.
Yeah, well, especially since he kind of double-crossed him.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't entirely agree with Harada, but he seems to think that Harada's got more right than Peter does. So that who's the good guy, who's the bad guy thing, not only are we as readers having that debate, but also people in the story are having it as well. So I thought that was pretty neat.
He's definitely, like you said, an enigma, a very interesting character.
Yeah, he's cool.
He's one of my favorites to read because he's just so mysterious. I'd like to know more about him. So anyway, I mean, I know that the Jesus thing is 99%, actually now 100% unlikely, but it would just been an interesting twist that would sure to get many people amongst the great debate of who and what Jesus is. But anyway.
So what other questions did you have?
I had other questions for the Bleeding Monk, which all dealt with that spear. I mean, I can ramble them off, but I don't think that they really matter at this point. Also, the Bleeding Monk also calls Peter the child of Nas, or Nas.
Nas. That's the rap music he likes to listen to. He likes. Remember in the first volume, he liked Nas. Yeah. That was a pretty funny little bit.
Okay, I thought that was a cool name, and I was like, "Oh, I'm hoping that we'll figure out what that means later."
No, it just means that he's hip to the youngsters.
I thought it was like a foretelling of something that was going to come. What is this? What does Nas stand for? But nope, it's just a rap name. Okay. I also noticed that Peter's design is different again.
Different artists.
Grumble.
So here's the positive thing. Clayton Henry's depiction of Peter seems to be what the depiction of Peter is going to look like going forward. For the most part, that's what, when we see Peter drawn, it's going to be very similar to Clayton Henry's version of him. So,
okay.
That's gonna.
I guess I'm sorry.
He has changed.
Anyway.
No, he has changed a lot, and it's very frustrating for me too as a reader. I hope that in the coming issues you'll be able to identify him quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to identify him based on the fact that he looks like a different person. It's like, oh, okay, that guy must be Peter. Because
and he's got the blue shoulder pad uniform.
That's
That's why, honestly, that's why superheroes wear costumes. So that you can quickly identify them on the page.
Oh, if it's because different artists?
Yeah, because different artists have different styles. Wow. But Thor always looks like Thor, and you can quickly identify him.
Interesting.
That's why sometimes, like, I don't know if you noticed, but Archer so far has worn the same shirt.
Yes.
All the time.
Yeah.
That's for ease of identification and probably ease for drawing as well.
Okay.
But it is a little annoying. Like, could you change your T-shirt at some point?
Kind of like in cartoon characters always wear the same clothes,
right?
Every single day,
right? That's for ease of animation. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Speaking of the art, we touched upon this earlier, but I really like the art in the Chinese story. But there was one panel that I really liked the most, and it's the one picture where Hive puts his hands together up to his mouth to show how distraught he is. It's just the coloring and the texturing and the shadowing of that shot is incredibly realistic to me. It almost makes me think that the artist worked at a tattoo parlor years back and his specialty was the praying hand symbol because those hands just look like that common tattoo.
You're very happy with his anatomy.
Yes.
Sometimes in comics anatomy is bad, so it's always nice when you see a drawing and you go, "Oh yeah, that's exactly what it would look like."
Yeah, it looks that almost looks like someone took a picture.
Yeah.
I just really like that one shot. I just called it a shot. I like that one drawing because it's an amazing show of talent. So, the second time I was reading this book, I was in the car with my fiance.
And her name is?
Shannon. And I made note of this the first time I read the book. And the second time I did this, I showed it to her while we were in the car. This is what I did. I turned a page to the zombies, or whatever they are, and I showed it to her, and I said, look at this. This is really nice, intricate, detailed art. This is really nice looking. She goes, yeah, okay. And I turned the page, and I said, now look. I showed her the lion, and I said one word. Disney. She laughed and said it almost looked like clip art or paint by number. And it does. And I didn't really know what was... I mean, I said that I wouldn't go as far to say that, but it was a striking difference in art design. I mean, I know that this was done on purpose to show that the child's imagination... she became the lion, but I never expected to see Mufasa in a comic.
So Animalia is one of my favorite characters. I really like her power that she can change into these things, but her only exposure to what a lion looks like is a cartoon. So that's why she changes into a cartoon lion as opposed to a real-looking lion.
And I think that's so cool.
That is such a well thought out, smart power. It's so neat. I was going to save this for the Easter eggs, but I'll just say it now. Karen and I also went to Hartford Comic Con almost a month ago, and Clayton Henry was there, and he was selling some pages from this book. Actually, he had the pencils out, and you could look through them, and he signed the cover of my Harbinger Wars trade, which is really awesome. And I asked him, I said, is there truth to the rumor that Animalia is modeled after your daughter? And he took out a picture of her, and his daughter looks exactly like Animalia does. And he says, I didn't pay her any royalties, though. She gets to watch Disney Channel. That's her royalties.
Wow. She gets to watch Disney Channel. So that he can get some more influence on what the draw was.
And we'll actually see her later in the Harbinger series. And some of the things that she draws are based on things that his daughter actually drew, which is really cool. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So Animalia is by far my favorite of the Sayat children we're introduced to. She's just got a cool power.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to go forward a little bit and to the point where we're back at PRS.
Yeah.
With Christian and Telek and the others. Is this another flashback? It didn't mention it, but the characters looked younger. I'm just trying to fit in the fight between Bloodshot and Harada.
Yeah, so this is... So, after the scene where Peter has the conversation with the monk, we then go to Project Rising Spirit's facility, and this is actually what happened just before Bloodshot attacked the facility in the Bloodshot trade, and then also during it. And we see Bloodshot with the two different arms. Remember, he had to take. Oh yeah. He had to take strength.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, he had to take. Well, he puts it in the shade in a shadow to kind of hide it, but he had to take strength from one arm to make himself stronger than the rest of him. So they actually drew him like that, which I thought was kind of cool that they carried that over. And then it's the kids escaping from the facility. So this takes place during and directly after the last Bloodshot trade we read.
Okay. That's actually...
And they probably look younger because I think Clayton Henry has a more youthful look to the characters that he draws.
Okay.
Than Clayton Crane does. So. We also learn in this issue that officially that it was not Pulse who attacked Bloodshot in that second page of issue number 1.
That we were trying to figure out who it was.
They don't tell you who it was. I thought I knew who it was, but I thought it was Saturn. Saturn we get introduced to in the second book. That's who I've always thought it was, but there's a line in there saying that this is her first mission. So I guess that's not who it was. But that's who I thought it was. It should be her.
So you still don't know who it is?
I still don't know. Until I read it this time, I was under the impression that it was Saturn. I really like Peter's line when he's talking with the monk about how everybody should be free. Remember I asked you a couple episodes back the different scenarios that each of the characters take and how they think that the Psiots should be treated. Should they be imprisoned or should they go to school? But we see a reinforcement of Peter's thought that they should just be let go.
Yes.
And so his motivation certainly through the rest of the story is quite clear based on that one line.
Yeah, and I was reminded of that conversation when I read that one line as well.
I also like the last line in the book where Bloodshot is being confronted by Harada, and he says, "I'm everybody's problem."
Yeah. And then I'm thinking, yeah, but you can't kill Harada, and Harada can't kill you.
Until the Harada protocols happen.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Let's talk about the Harada protocols.
Yeah, let me see.
Did you expect Bloodshot to vomit nanites?
No, I did not.
On Harada's face.
I thought that was kind of funny.
It was awesome. Did you expect Harada to rip the skin off of Bloodshot's face so that he had no skin on his face for half the story?
I didn't know what to expect at all. All I know is that the fight between the two was friggin' awesome.
It was awesome. It was intense. It was great. It was really cool.
I like the Harada protocol concept. I thought that was a pretty neat
yeah, why wouldn't... I mean, Project Rising Spirit and Harada are at odds. Why wouldn't they write programming into the nanites to deal with him? It makes perfect sense.
Yes. Yeah, the whole sequence of just Bloodshot kicking the crap out of Harada was pretty fun, actually. For a brief moment, I thought just maybe Harada would be killed, but then I realized it's way too early for him to die, so something's got to happen to Bloodshot. I would have liked to have seen the fight go on for a little longer because it was just so awesome to read. But what did Bloodshot explode, actually? Because when he was flying in the air and he comes down and you can see him explode, what did he do? I don't know what he exploded.
I don't know. I don't know if you noticed when you read this. Did you feel like you were missing parts of the story?
Probably.
Did you feel like, oh, how did the Harbinger renegades get there? How did Bloodshot get to this point in time? Did you feel that way?
I don't know, actually.
Okay.
I might have just been kind of going along with it, and didn't even think that.
So this was collected. I'm going to tell you right now that the Harbinger Wars is going to be a 3-part episode.
Okay.
Because we also get the 4 issues that take place from the Renegade's perspective, and we get the 4 issues that take place from Bloodshot's perspective. So this was kind of the book that tied it all in, but Valiant collected them separately. So you might feel like in the next book that you're reading the same story at some points.
Okay.
It's going to fill in all those gaps.
All right.
So when we do the Bloodshot volume, the Harada Bloodshot fight is going to have even more.
Awesome.
Yep.
Because that was really fun, and I wanted to see more. So it's good to know that I'll see more.
What about Harada? Harada in this story, he crossed the line from is he a bad guy to he killed that girl to save himself.
Why did he do that?
Well, he needed a place for the nanites to go out of his system, so he rammed his fist through her chest, deposited all the nanites into her body through a blood transfusion.
I thought he was trying to save her.
No. He was not trying to save her at all.
He was just trying to save himself.
He was trying to save himself. Now, he may have like a needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. I'm more important than this girl who, so I need to be saved. But
whoever was next to the dying girl.
Stronghold.
That was Stronghold?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, well, I thought Stronghold was asking Harada to help heal the girl, and Harada kneels down and he says, "Okay," and then I just was under the impression that, but no, he was just like
saving himself.
Okay, he's like, "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
Okay.
So he kind of crosses the line a little bit.
Yeah.
Not a little bit. I mean, he kills her.
Yeah, he kills her to save himself.
I mean, you may argue that she was injured, but he kills her.
I guess he could also argue that his business is not done and he needs to save the world from certain doom.
Yes, that would be his position, that they're okay, now there's all these young Sayat children who are running amok, and I'm more important and I need to live to stop them.
Yeah.
But
it sucks that she died that quickly. But I
still on Harada's side.
I don't know whose side I'm on. It's like I'm just reading.
That's great. That's wonderful. You know what? That's exactly how it should be. So that's great.
The next question I had dealt with the siblings that could telepathically talk to each other.
Yeah, I love their character design. Can I just talk to that real quick? There's often a tendency in comic books for people to have same face. Yeah. Where everybody is drawn to look the same. And what I liked about the twins in particular is even though they looked alike because they're twins, they had very unique features from anybody else so that you could always tell that those were the twins. You know, they had like a unibrow and a big nose. Both kids had the same shaped nose, but they weren't like, they looked different than other characters. And I really appreciate that in comics when people don't have the same face all the time.
Well, I mean, same face.
There's one artist who, Barry Windsor Smith, he's regarded as one of the greatest comic book artists ever. But if you change the hair on his different characters, that's the only difference. Like the nose, the mouth, the eyes, those part of the facial features always look the same. And the difference is hair or outfit.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to mention is, like on South Park or even anime, pretty much the only thing that makes people different, distinguished is their clothing or their hair. Because in South Park, everyone's face is the same, or at least the four boys are, with the exception of their hats and clothes. And in anime, their hair is what distinguishes them from other people because the faces are all drawn basically the same.
And the spikier the hair, the more power that particular character has.
Yes. Yep. Or the more slanted someone's eyes are, the more evil they are.
Yes.
Anyway.
So the twins, yeah. No, they're cool characters, although they make everything go wrong, and if they had just like not had an attitude about it, then maybe everything wouldn't have gone as badly as it did.
Or go running after each other in
I know.
in the middle of war. It's like
hey! the Renegades and Bloodshot would not have fought against each other if it weren't for the twins.
Maybe we should get rid of the twins. So their word bubble, another word bubble question.
Yep.
With the purple squiggle and the gray text.
Yep.
I couldn't make out what the gray text, I couldn't figure out what that was supposed to be.
So that is when they are communicating when they're apart from each other. So that's telepathy.
Okay, so why the purple bubble as well then?
So the purple bubble and the shape of the bubble shows that it's telepathy. I think that there are certain words that are grayed out because I think they're far apart and they're not necessarily understanding everything that's coming through.
So is it kind of like interference?
Yeah, maybe.
All right, I could buy that then.
Yeah.
Kind of like, radio static or something. It's like, I didn't get that part.
We're introduced to the hardcore. Hardcore are original Valiant characters.
Oh, are they?
Yes.
Oh, that makes a whole world of difference.
And they have a very juvenile name.
Hardcore?
Hardcore. In the 90s, there were lots of comic book companies, and there were two comic book companies that actually all they made were parody comics. There was Spoof Comics and Parody Press, and that's all they made. And there was one issue of the softcore. It's very funny.
All right.
So the hardcore were one of my father's favorite characters, a group of characters, because when I was growing up, because what he liked about them were they were old guys fighting.
Oh, okay. So that was another question, because if they had drawn them to look older,
yeah,
but no,
they're a bunch of old guys. So in the original Valiant universe, they were Vietnam vets who were then given these abilities, but they were a bunch of old guys. This, I think, maybe they were Iraqi war vets. I'm not sure, but
so that explains why they never really mentioned what their powers were, because I didn't know what Shakespeare was. I didn't know what Maniac or whatever his name was.
Those were just their code names.
Well, I thought it had something to do with something like with Psiots, how they have, Cronus and they have Hive. And
so did you not understand how the hardcore's powers worked?
No, they had the live link where they say live line, I need this, and then they say Roger that.
Yeah, so they have a brain implant, and Project Rising Spirit has been gathering these children all these years and dissecting them at times and finding out how to make those powers work in a brain. So they have this implant in their brain, and they can have specific Harbinger powers, Psiot powers, one at a time. So they can say, I need flight, and they have the ability to flight. I need invulnerability, but you can't have flight and invulnerability at the same time.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's neat too. So they could actually combine their powers into one, so they could have a total of 4 things going on at once if they needed to.
And I wrote the list of the 6 powers that we saw that they had in this volume. As we get more in the dealing with them, I'll try to keep track of all their different powers. So we had flight, we had shield, we had true sight, which was kind of neat. He asked for true sight, and he was able to be a better sniper.
Yeah.
We had invisibility. We had detonation mode, which was like, you put your hand against something and you can blow up the wall.
Okay.
And we had neural spike, which could be a bunch of things. Obviously something that you do to the brain, but I'm not really sure how it works.
Okay. So all of these powers that Hardcore has are derived from Psiots in some ways. So there was a Psiot that had those powers at some point.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so...
And do you know what HARD stands for, HARD?
No, I do not.
Harbinger Active Resistance Division.
Oh, God, I will not remember that.
That's okay. I always will remember that.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you'll be there to remind me as well. I like the scene where we're introduced to the guy in the Arctic or wherever he might be.
Gunslinger.
Yeah.
Charles Palmer. Yep.
It kind of reminded me of, going back to South Park again, of the South Park Inception episode. I think it's called Inception.
Yeah.
Where in South Park, it's where the government actually tried to get Freddy Krueger out of retirement, but it took some convincing for him to join their fight. And it was just very, very parallel to that, and I really enjoyed it because of that. But it was an interesting way to end that book, because I was wondering who this guy was and what their role was going to play in all of this.
And for me, as a former reader, I was like, "Oh, there they are!"
Were you waiting for them?
Yeah, I was waiting for them to show up at some point. Yeah, they had like 20 some issues in the original Valiant universe.
But it doesn't seem like they're going to get that many this time. Are they still going to get a lot?
Well, they're different. So, first of all, these guys have a lot more of an edge to them. They're really grumpy guys, and they don't like each other. In the original series, they were buddies, they were war buddies, and they liked each other just fine. Also, we'll jump ahead a little bit, but Shakespeare and Hammerhead bite the dust, and those were major characters for all of the series of Hardcore. And when they died, I was like, what? What? No. What do you know?
Yeah.
So it's different.
And to me, when they died, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
See ya. I don't even know what your powers were. Why is your name Shakespeare? Was your power reciting Shakespearean lines? I didn't really understand. That's when I was going along the lines of that they would have had like Psiot names.
No, I think that it was just their code names in wartime.
Okay, that'll make a lot more, like Maverick and Goose.
Right. So he was smart. So they called him Shakespeare.
And also at the very end of this book, this another toothbrush reference.
Okay.
2 in Archer and Armstrong, and here's another. Why? Is there subtext? Brush your teeth, kids. You'll be just like Valiant heroes.
Maybe the creators have dental anxiety.
Maybe.
So at the beginning of the second issue, they had this nice little chart that shows you everybody's characters, which was kind of cool. So you can at least keep them apart a little bit. There's a lot of names.
I didn't read it because I just wanted to get
on
going
with the story. That's fine. Yeah, sure.
I just looked at the silhouettes.
It's kind of extra. Okay. Monica, Jim, though, and Amelia is not on this list here.
Oh. I didn't notice that because I didn't read it. And I probably wouldn't have noticed that anyway if I did read it. Because there were so many names thrown out in the first 2 books. So many names, I lost track.
Also, the first issue felt like a lot like setup, and the second issue really felt like a first issue to me. Even the way it begins, Valiant Comics is proud to present the main event. This is really like, if I were to hand somebody a Valiant book and say, here's a crossover, I would hand them issue number 2 before I'd hand them issue number 1, maybe, because you get straight into the action, at least with issue 2.
You didn't do that to me.
I didn't do that to you, no. I made you suffer through everything.
Absolutely.
By the way, during that fight with Harada, do you think Goldie was telling him the whole time, you can't take any more damage?
Actually, I did think that. You can't take any more damage. You got to stop this. You need more protein.
So the third issue opens with the map, which is really cool. I like the map.
I like the map too.
That's really neat so that you can, okay, this is the order of events at least, and you can see where everything happened.
Where everyone's just
converging onto Las Vegas.
Yes. It seems that Harada is the only person so far to actually incapacitate Bloodshot. He was down and out for far much longer than he has for any other fight.
Sure, absolutely.
Even Gamma.
Absolutely. And the vice versa.
Yes.
Harada was also out for quite a while as well.
So maybe those are the only 2 that could actually kill each other. What was the protein that Bloodshot ingested after he was talking to the kids? And he's like, I'm he was talking kind of because he couldn't talk because he had no lips.
Yeah.
Did he go to a cow factory? Did he eat dead people or something? What was it?
You'll see when you read the Bloodshot trade.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
The answer is amazing.
Okay. Also, as we just said, Harada's also been out for far longer than normal. The final battle has got to be between these 2. And as far as it looks, the only logical way is that the final battle has to be between these 2, because they're the only ones that are pretty much immortal. Maybe more characters come in. Maybe Exo or Eric comes in at some point. I don't know. Maybe Archer and Armstrong come in.
Peter gets stronger with his powers.
Peter could get stronger with his powers. Archer could come in. Shadow Man could come in with Hoss. I mean, the monkey. Jaunty, that's his name. Be like, what's up, Hoss? Also, there was another moment. I liked the idea of. I didn't even think of this, which is why I leave this up to writers, I guess, to do something like this. But I didn't even think of combining Psyop's powers together. I really like the idea of the 2 kids who called Puppet Master. They seem like a very formidable team that would be really difficult to defeat in battle. I never thought, oh, what would happen if you combine this power with this power? They could really complement each other both very well. Never even occurred to me until Puppet Master came along.
It's like combining materia in Final Fantasy VII.
Yes, it is. It's like combining those 2. I don't remember. Are more Psyots still being introduced in book 3, or have they already been introduced in the first 2 books?
They've all been introduced for what you need for the story. They came at you so quick that it's hard to keep track of them all, which is why that little guide is handy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of characters in this book. I think that's one of the flaws of this story, is that there's almost too many. And it may be a flaw in this story, but it's a strength for later down the road, because we have now a wealth of characters that they can use, and we can see stories with them going forward. But a lot came at you really quick.
Yeah,
it's too much. It
really is too much.
Yeah, it took me several readings before I knew that there was a difference between Clem and Kronos. And Clem is with Bloodshot's group and Kronos is on the other group, but I kept getting those two guys confused.
Okay.
So, and one of the other questions I have: where's the blonde kid from the Bloodshot story, the one who made the floor disappear?
Oh, that kid.
He's not. I don't see him at all in this story.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, I don't know.
So many.
I don't know where he is.
I think it's neat that there's a lot of Psyots out there than we had originally thought. Kind of like mutants and X-Men. How there's the original 4 or 5, how many there are, but it turns out there's a whole bunch more out there. But again, they're just introduced.
Yeah, I wonder.
So quickly.
Is it 1% of the population, or 0.5% of the world's population? I don't know. There's a bunch.
There's a lot of them, and it's kind of like the movie Spider-Man 3, where they just had so many things going on at so many times. It was just needless, or it could have been explained in a longer time.
Yeah,
a longer time span. But
I think one of the things that helps is that the Harbinger trade we're going to read focuses on the kids in Las Vegas, and the Bloodshot trade we're going to read for Harbinger Wars focuses on the kids with Bloodshot. So you see a little bit more of their personalities in each of those groups.
Okay.
But there's a lot of kids.
I'm hoping that as time goes on, I'll be able to better mark them in my head.
Also, I think another reason that so many are introduced, honestly, is so that they could kill so many.
Okay, so like red shirts.
Right? Yeah. I mean, the hardcore are introduced by killing a kid right away, and you go, "Oh, these are not my dad's hardcore. These are kid killers," And then a bunch more die in the fight, so that you realize that these are real stakes, and that you have these powers, but you're gonna die if you're not using them right, or if you involve yourself in stuff that's over your head. So I think that's another reason we see a lot of characters, is because a lot of them
they want to show
bite the dust.
Actual war going on. This is real. This is what it's really like. It's not just adults killing each other. This is everybody dying.
Yep.
You mentioned hardcore coming in. I was wondering if there's one thing that you could help straighten out for me.
Sure.
Is there's so many factions being pitted against each other right now. I've kind of lost track of who is going against who.
Okay, so there are 3 major factions to me. There's Harada and his company. There's Project Rising Spirit, which Harada and Project Rising Spirit butt heads against each other. And then there's Peter and the Renegades. The hardcore are members of Project Rising Spirit.
Okay.
Bloodshot was part of Project Rising Spirit, and we kind of learned that he might have been created to fight Harada, just as we know that the hardcore, because of their name, Harbinger Active Resistance Division, was created to fight against Harada. And then you have the 2 groups of kids. You have the group that's with Bloodshot, and then you have the other group in Las Vegas. Those kids are referred to as Generation Zero.
Yes.
Yes. And so those were both imprisoned by Project Rising Spirit. And by the end of the story, they are with Harada.
Ooh.
Because Harada wins. This whole story is about Harada winning.
As is the second cover. With him holding Bloodshot.
Right. Right. So, let's just jump to it right now. Hardcore is decimated.
Yeah.
Half of the group is destroyed, and the other one is crazy. So, Maniac is crazy, and Gunslinger's left. The Generation Zero kids go with Harada. What's left of them? What's left of the kids who are with Bloodshot go with Harada. Peter is wrecked. He's got a broken jaw. The kids are scared to be anywhere. They're afraid of Harada because they just went, "Oh, this is real life." And Bloodshot, we don't really know what happens to Bloodshot at the end of this.
Well, Bloodshot certainly isn't dead. He just doesn't die that easily. Okay, so
Harada wins, which is really cool.
I didn't get that.
This is a crossover story where none of the quote unquote heroes win. The bad guy wins. If Harada's the bad guy. I really like the ending. I really like that. So you didn't realize that he got so many pieces on the board at the end.
No, I didn't. I didn't, because again, as you said, there's a lot going on, and I was kind of confused at who was with who. And
we'll also learn going forward that there are more things that he won during this battle that we didn't even realize. Harada really came out on top more ways than are evident now.
He's almost a god. Who is Astral, and how did Astral die? I'm confused.
So Astral can project her consciousness outside of her own body.
Oh, that one was Astral.
So she was killed when she was outside of her own body.
Oh.
So all that's left is like that light.
Okay.
That's her.
So it's basically like the husk kind of died.
Yeah. And then she goes into one of the other kids' bodies, right?
She went into some guy's body, it seemed, that was crouched right beneath, right next to her on his knees. But he seemed kind of stuck in that position, and he couldn't move.
Because somebody else used a power against him to freeze him in place.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
So she's kind of stuck in that one position indefinitely until something can kind of help her along, if anything ever comes along. Okay.
I love the scene where Bloodshot is fighting against the Renegades, and the helicopter that had been crashed into the Bellagio dislodges and falls on top of him, and he looks up and he goes, "Oh, come on."
Yeah, that was funny.
Really, this now? I got to deal with this now. And those twins. Like this page right here where the twins finally see each other and they're hugging, and it's just like all the terror of the battle is happening behind them.
Yeah.
And all I'm thinking at this time, like, you're the cause of this. But I love this page where.
Yeah, it's a neat little illustration where both of them are embracing, and there's just carnage going on behind them. You got the pterodactyl and that evil dream thing, and a plane flying about to crash.
And now Kozel is in charge of Project Rising Spirit.
Yeah, and I actually, the way that it was drawn, I actually thought that they shot him in the head too when they were shaking his hand. But after looking at it further, like, oh, it's just blood splatter.
Yeah.
So yeah, now he's in charge of Project Rising. He doesn't really know how to take it. He's like, okay, thank you. And then the art is completely different on the very last page
because it's a Miko Suyin page drawing the bleeding monk.
Yeah.
So not only do we realize with that page that Harada wins, but we realize that's what the bleeding monk wanted.
We realized that the bleeding monk
he wanted Harada
playing Peter.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which I actually did not think before this page. I thought that maybe the bleeding monk was actually on Peter's side. He wanted Peter to win because he doesn't want Harada to win, because if Harada wins, then he's gonna beat bleeding monk, or I don't know. But he's actually on Harada's side, which makes sense because he's been with Harada for a lot longer than Peter.
Yep.
So he knows what Harada's plans are, and and I guess he can see into the future. So, but if he can see into the future, then why is he doing all this? I don't know.
He's shaping it. Or that's why I asked that question: is he shaping the future, or is he trying to prevent a future that he saw?
Man, that's just a deep question. That goes along with, is our fate already, like, is everything pre-written already, or can we shape our own fate? I don't know. That's very philosophical. Something that we could probably talk about for an hour, so I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Easter eggs? So I talked about Animalia, so I'll just go on to my other one. I want to talk about Shakespeare. Every line of dialogue of Shakespeare's that wasn't him going, ugh, is a line from a book.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
I only noticed one line of his that could have been like a Shakespearean.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you all the Shakespearean ones. I have a list. I wrote down everything that he said. And some of them we looked up and they were non-Shakespearean lines. They were from other things. I'm not going to get into those. I'll get into specifically the Shakespearean ones. So once more into the breach, dear friends, once more. That's Henry V, Act 3, Scene 1. But when the blast of war blows in our ears, then imitate the action of the tiger. That's also Henry V, Act 3, Scene 1. Dysart really likes Henry V. Let pry through the portage of the head like a brass cannon. That's Henry V, Act 3, Scene 1. So the same speech. We get a line from the Tempest, Act 1, Scene 2, because all the devils are here. And we also get Comedy of Errors, Act 2, Scene 1. That's the line that begins, wretched soul.
Comedy of Errors, that wasn't Shakespeare, was it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But there's a lot of other lines, too. Rise and shine, how lucky are the dead. Ah, the blessings of old friends. Everything that he says, except for lifeline, neural spike. Where's my neural spike? Everything but those two lines are from literature. So.
How would have Shakespeare written that?
Yeah.
Whereest thouest mineth neural spiketh?
It's not Shakespeare if you just add st and th to the end of every word.
It is to meeth. It iseth to meeth.
It iseth toeth meeth. Covers?
Yeah. By the way, I was at the Newberry Comics a few weeks ago, and I took that picture
that we put on our Twitter feed.
That we put on our Twitter feed, and I looked when I was looking to find some kind of a book that
he was looking at the first issue in the Perfect Day arc of Harbinger.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, if anyone has seen that picture, I actually did have it open up to a page. I just kind of defocused my eyes, so I had no idea what I was looking at.
I see. So you're still blind to the future.
I'm still blind to the future. Josh thought I was maybe looking at an ad on the page. Nope, I was not looking at an ad. I turned to a real page. I saw word bubbles. I just kind of defocused my eyes, kind of like you would for a magic eye, and just. Shannon was there saying, "Make a confused look on your face." So I was like, "Okay." that was funny. But anyway, I was there and I saw other covers. And you said last episode that a lot of covers had 8-bit variants.
Yeah.
And I saw a few of those, and I got really excited to see the 8-bit versions of whatever. I didn't really take a look at what they were because I didn't want to ruin it.
Yeah.
But I just saw more than just the Metroid image.
Yeah.
And I got really excited over
You're
that.
ready for them.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm probably going to pick those almost every time.
That's okay. Covers.
All right. Covers. We got my favorite. It's the Bleeding Monk one.
So you like the Stephane Perger variant to Harbinger Wars number 4. And memory, I'm trying to think. This is a 1/20 variant, I think. No. 1 in 50. This is the 1 in 50 variant to Harbinger Wars number 4.
I think it's really cool. I like the blood splatter turning into the characters, the Bloodshot and Peter, and that's probably Harada.
You got the sash.
Going all over the place.
You like the Bleeding Monk.
The Bleeding Monk's cool too. Yeah. I also like the other one here.
So this is my favorite cover, actually. This Harbinger Wars number 4, 1 in 20 or 1 in 25 variant by Juan Doe. It's the cover that looks like a recruitment poster.
From the 50s.
Yeah, and this is my favorite cover. I like it a lot. Probably because it looks like one of those old posters.
Yeah, that's why I kind of like it too. It's very propaganda-ish.
Yeah.
And that's what he kind of does.
Yeah.
So it's very fitting.
So that's your second favorite?
That's my second favorite.
That's my first favorite. My second favorite cover is the regular cover to Harbinger Wars number 3 by Patrick Zurcher. And I just like it because it's an homage to the first appearance of Hardcore in the original Valiant universe. That's kind of neat.
I also actually like the cover with Gunslinger in the rain, holding both guns, looking really epic.
That's the regular cover to issue number 3. The Patrick Zurcher one is the pull box variant to issue number 3. Yeah, that's a cool cover. So you like the Hardcore characters?
Yeah, they were interesting.
Do you want to see more of them?
Now that I know that they are a lot more in depth, yes, I would like to see more of them. Because at first, I just thought that they were just introduced as just another group, just coming in to just confuse the whole matter, and then they died. But now that I know that they have a lot more depth to them. I would like to see more from them, even if it's from the past of what they did in the past. That would be really cool.
Cool.
And I guess that's going to happen because
I smiled.
giant smile from ear to ear.
So, this is your first event story. This is your first crossover story that you read. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was very interesting to read. The first time, as I said, it was tough reading, but as soon as I looked at it with a fresher perspective, it was very enjoyable reading. And it almost didn't feel like a crossover to me because I felt so familiar with all of the characters. It felt natural for
You felt
everyone.
like it was just a natural extension of where the stories were going.
Yes.
Sometimes crossovers can feel forced.
Yes.
Sometimes it's like, oh, we got to get all of the Justice League in like all 300 previous members of the Justice League in one room, and they got to fight all the villains in the DC universe at the same time. And so that stuff can feel really forced. This was to me, it was a natural progression to the story. This is where the story was headed. Eric is not involved because he doesn't need to be.
Right.
Archer and Armstrong are not involved because they don't need to be. Mm-hmm. And that is really cool. I really like that about this story. The characters that need to be involved are involved. It's a good crossover. It's a solid crossover. It's not too much and not too little.
So. Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth. And both Harada and Bloodshot, they're destined to come together, and they're both in separate stories, and they came together, and then Peter with his renegades come across. It's all blending into just one good story that really, really worked well. And again, it did not need Shadow Man, didn't need Eric, didn't need Archer and Armstrong or anybody else, Ninjak. None of those. Didn't need any of that stuff. Yeah. So this is perfect.
Great.
I really enjoyed it. This was a good one to read.
So, two things. I have a mission for you. Something that you need to do before the next episode that we record.
Okay.
To generate hype for Harbinger Wars, the Valiant crew, along with, I can't remember the name of the company. Anyway, they created a Harbinger Wars game.
Oh.
That you can download for free on your phone, on your mobile or Android device. And it's...
Did I play that on your phone?
I think I might have showed it to you when it first came out. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's cool.
So your mission is for you to download it and to play a couple levels and give us a game report.
Okay.
And let us know what you think about it.
Who's it called? Harbinger Wars?
Harbinger Wars, yeah.
$1.99. I gotta pay for it.
Oh no! You can borrow my phone.
All right, I'll do that. Yeah, this looks familiar to me. So yeah, you showed this to me when it first came out.
All right. Before we record the next episode, you'll play on my phone.
I liked it because I thought it was neat because it was all like 8-bit Nintendo-ish.
It's an 8-bit side scroller. It's goofy.
Okay.
Cool. So here's the next book.
Hey, it's Harbinger again.
It's Harbinger Volume 3, Harbinger Wars.
Oh.
So it's the Harbinger perspective. It's the Renegade's perspective of the Harbinger Wars.
Okay, so it's continuing on with this story, but it's
not continuing on. It's
but it's a different.
It's at the same time.
Ah, that's neat.
Yes.
Okay, this will be interesting.
So, for instance, I won't tell you too much about it, but for instance, the scene with the Bleeding Monk and Harada and Peter meeting inside the Bleeding Monk's head, that gets a little bit more fleshed out in this.
Okay.
Yep.
Really interesting to read.
And this story also gives us a lot of backstory, too. You get Harada backstory on how he created his company.
Oh, cool.
And also how he got his powers.
Ooh, that'll be interesting.
So this is a pretty cool volume.
Ooh, can't wait.
You can follow us on Twitter at VE Podcast. You can email us, vepodcast@gmail.com. And we have a website, of course. Have you learned it yet?
vepodcast.wordpress.com.
Bam, that's it. Go to
This is why you always do all these things. I just can't remember what they are, even though it's pretty much the same thing for everyone.
So we'll see you next time. Thank you.